David Stern is trying to sell all of us a dream. But I'm not buying it. The former NBA commissioner must be suffering from a case of amnesia, going by his comments on the Bloomberg Business of Sports podcast that will be released on Monday. Stern thinks Colin Kaepernick would still have a job if he played in the NBA instead of the NFL. As we were digging out of a terrible hole for us, in the late 70s and 80s, when there was a fair amount of racism exhibited about players, we felt as a matter of policy we had to promote our players and show that they were real people. And it worked, Stern said. Stern would go on to say that the NFL should have just suspended Kaepernick when he first began kneeling because if they had, his career would have still been able to continue. If only racism were that easy to solve. I'm a little lost on how a league would have had the grounds to suspend a player who was demonstrating his rights as an American citizen to peacefully protest against two of America's greatest sins, racism and police brutality, when the league never had any rules in play that dealt with this in the first place. Oh, that's right. Because Stern is the man who did that very thing to a player in the 1990s, which led to him also being blackballed by a league that he at times dominated. During the 1996 season, Stern suspended Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf for a game because he refused to stand for the anthem, as he felt it was a symbol of oppression. Abdul-Rauf was also fined $32,000. Days later, Abdul-Rauf and the league met in the middle, as he would stand for the anthem, but with his head bowed in prayer. And while the rule predated Stern, as the commissioner he could have moved to have it changed. But he didn't, and while Abdul-Rauf was allowed to play, the damage to his career was already done. The Denver Nuggets wound up trading Abdul-Rauf to the Sacramento Kings, where he sat on the bench more than he played. Abdul-Rauf had to take his career overseas, as the blackball was in full effect. He had a short stop in Vancouver, playing for the Grizzlies, after 2 seasons out of the league, but did not catch on. The man, who is arguably the best shooter in the league. He shot 39% on 5.4 three-pointers per game, unheard of at the time. He was the prototype for guys like Steph Curry and Trae Young, and was averaging 19.2 points per game during his last season in Denver. His NBA career ended all because of something that was initiated by Stern. However, if you're aware of Stern's history, this shouldn't surprise you given that he's the same guy that came up with the NBA's dress code because the league was getting a little too thuggish for his liking, as Middle America felt uncomfortable watching the NBA. In 2005, Stern instituted a policy that required players to wear business casual attire to games and a sports coat with dress shoes on the bench. Shorts, chains, sleeveless shirts, headgear of any kind, and sunglasses were all banned. It was a clear shot from Stern directed at black players in the league. If they are really going to have a problem, they will have to make a decision about how they want to spend their adult life in terms of playing in the NBA or not, Stern said back then. If you're confused by the words that have come out of Stern's mouth over the years, you should be. On one hand, he wants to take credit for promoting the league's black players after the direct racism they endured during the 70s and 80s. But on the other hand, he's the reason why one of the best guards in the league, who was black, got blackballed, while also being the guy who mandated what grown black men had to wear suits to make white fans more comfortable. Stern wants to make it seem like he's the hero. The NFL is still dealing with the Kaepernick effect, while the NBA has become the most fashionable league in professional sports. But in actuality, Stern is just extremely lucky. No one could have guessed that a genuflection to racist attitudes about what young, rich black men wore would influence a new generation of players to prefer suits to sweatpants. Over the years, we've seen how progressive the NBA has been when it comes to social issues, especially since Adam Silver took over as commissioner in 2014. Less than 4 months into his new job, Silver banned former Los Angeles Clippers owner Donald Sterling for life due to racist remarks and all but forced him to sell his team, ushering in a new era for the league. However, anytime Silver is asked whether or not he'll change the NBA's anthem policy that requires players to stand, his answer is always the same: nope. Which leaves me wondering, is the NBA really that progressive of a league, or does it just look that way because it's always being compared to the calamity that is the NFL? You be the judge.